Guys, the heavyweight division is finally back. It's back and it's thriving. And you want to know how I know it's back and thriving? Because for the first time in a long time, I'm excited. I'm excited for the heavyweight division. And I'm excited for matches to be made. And I'm even visualizing matches. And like, I'm fantasizing, like, how would this guy and this guy do if they fight? And the reason why I'm excited is because, guys, for the longest time, I was really disinterested in the heavyweight division. I'm a 90s child, and sadly, I grew up watching Vladimir Klitschko, and I don't say that in a disrespectful way, but during the Vladimir Klitschko reign, it was a very dull reign. I didn't grow up I'm not an 80s child. I didn't grow up in the 90s. I wasn't a teenager in the 90s. I didn't see Mike Tyson. I didn't really get to see those guys because by the time I got into boxing around 12, during the mid 2000s, during this time, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, all those guys were already out of the boxing. During that time, it was really the start of the Vladimir Klitschko era. So when I started watching boxing, it was really the dawn of the Vladimir Klitschko era. Vladimir Klitschko had just fought guys like Samuel Peter. Then he had defeated Chris Bird. He had become the champion. Then he had become the unified champion. And he went on to, dominate the division for several years. So I'm not going to lie, from like because I'm a hardcore boxing fan, I obviously watched the heavyweight division. And I remember watching Vladimir Klitschko face guys. I remember I watched him face Calvin Brock live. I remember I watched him face Rasim Rahman live. I remember I watched him face what's his name? Eddie Chambers live. I remember I watched him face David Haye live. So I have been keeping track with Vladimir Klitschko's career for years. But I was always kind of bored. And of course I watched him when he fought Alexander Povetkin live. But I remember for years I kind of got bored and disinterested with the heavyweight division. Because I felt like it was just always the same thing over and over again. It was just Vladimir Klitschko winning a fight via decision, points decision, or just knocking out the guy. It was like he was always miles ahead of his opponents, and I just got bored of it. And to me, the weight classes I paid attention to the most were like the welterweights and the middleweights. I remember I watched all the welterweight fights during I remember when Paul Williams was first coming up. I remember the middleweights. I remember watching a lot of Kelly Pavlik fights, Jermaine Taylor back then. Then, of course, the rise of Andre Ward. I was always watching those guys. And, of course, the little guys like Uriel Castillo. But the division I really was disinterested in the most was probably the heavyweights. But then something happened. It started changing. Guys like Tyson Fury started emerging. Tyson Fury was talking a bunch of stuff. I started listening to him. I was like, oh, look at this guy. This guy is kind of funny. Of course, young guys like Wilder first came up. I remember I was very enthusiastic when I first saw Wilder. And of course, then American guys like Wilder and Brian Jennings came up. And I remember I was like thinking, man, what if Deontay Wilder were to face Brian Jennings, because they were both Americans. And I remember I got excited by that. But they never fought. I remember then Mike Perez came along. He fought that Russian guy that I forgot his first name, but his last name was like Abdul or something. And if you remember, after the fight, it was like he kind of got like brain injury. It ended in he got basically brain injury from it. That Russian guy. If you guys are heavyweight boxing fans, you guys will know who I'm talking about. And I was excited. And then, of course, Anthony Joshua came along. Guys like Jerome Miller came along. Joseph Parker came along. Hughie Fury. And then, of course, Tyson Fury ended the career. Not the career, but ended the reign of Vladimir Klitschko when he defeated him. And when Tyson Fury ended the reign of Vladimir Klitschko, I remember I was happy. I remember I went on Twitter and I said, thank you for finally ending the reign of Vladimir Klitschko. And it wasn't because I didn't like Vladimir Klitschko. I've always respected Vladimir Klitschko. I consider him an all-time great. But it was because I was just sick and tired of watching the same old Vladimir Klitschko dominates everybody. And it was like, it's just never ending. It was the same old thing, and it was the same. It just got kind of lame and dull. So when Tyson Fury ended it, even though the fight wasn't that fun to watch, when Tyson Fury ended it, defeated and dethroned Vladimir, I was like, finally, it's a new era. And really, since Tyson Fury, even though I make fun of Tyson Fury and I think he'll never be a champion because he's like morbidly obese, I will always give Tyson Fury credit for ending the reign of Vladimir Klitschko. Because who knows, maybe he'll still be fighting had he not lost. But once that was over, then that's when really the crop of young heavyweights started really emerging, like Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Of course, Wilder ended up winning his belt. Of course, guys like Anthony Joshua ended up becoming champion. And then Joshua ended up completely ending the reign of Vladimir Klitschko by KOing him. And now we got guys like Joseph Parker as a champion. Hughie Fury might be champion next. Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. Young guys like Jarrell Big Baby Miller, Dillian White. So the heavyweight division is really fun and thriving. And I'm starting to like come up with like fights that I want to see. Like, I really want to see Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus someone like Dillian White. I want to see Jarrell Big Baby Miller versus someone like Anthony Joshua. I want to see Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. I want to see Anthony Joshua versus Luis Ortiz. I want to see Luis Ortiz versus Jarrell Miller. I want to see even Povetkin versus Jarrell Miller. I want to see Joseph Parker versus Anthony Joshua. I want to see. There's just so many fights that I could think of that I would think it would be a good fight. I'm even excited for the Hughie Fury versus Joseph Parker match. I think that's gonna be a good fight. I think stylistically, that's what I'm curious to see, and I'm gonna watch it. It's gonna happen soon. So yeah, the heavyweight division is really back, and us as boxing fans should be excited because for the longest time, especially during my teenage years, it was just a very dull and boring division. And finally, it's back. Finally, I'm excited. Just like I'm excited for like the welterweights and the middleweights. I'm also excited now for the heavyweights because the heavyweight is really the golden. The heavyweight was really like. At one point, the heavyweight division was was basically boxing. It was like everything of boxing. But then for like a while, the welterweights was really like the golden era of boxing. But now the heavyweights are starting to come back. So I'm just happy that the heavyweight division isn't dead. It's not like a dead division anymore. It used to be like a dead division for a long time, particularly during the Vladimir Klitschko era. So I'm just happy that it's not a dead division anymore, and it's like been basically revived. That's why I think it's good that guys like Anthony Joshua are as big as they are because they're helping revive it as well. That's all I have to say, guys. It's just a little video, and McGregor, I'm out.